My boss promised growth, then humiliated me on the office floor. 10 months later, I resigned publicly after achieving career freedom he couldn't control. You think you're special because you closed one deal? The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. My boss Derek stood over my desk, arms crossed, face twisted into something between disgust and amusement. The entire open plan office had gone silent. Look, he said, leaning back, hands behind his head. You're talented. I see that. That's why I recruited you. But talent without humility is just arrogance, and arrogance gets people fired. I watched him. The client you brought in? That was good work. Really. But the way you were strutting around the office, showing everyone the contract, talking about your commission, that's not team behavior. That's ego. I hadn't strutted. I'd shown the contract to Rachel because she'd helped me format the appendices. I need to know you're coachable, Derek continued. That you can take feedback without getting emotional. Can you do that? Yes, I said. My voice came out steady. He studied me for a long moment. Good. Because I'm putting you on the Morrison account. It's big. Bigger than what you just closed. But I need to see that you can handle pressure without letting it go to your head. The Morrison account had been in development for 2 years. It was worth 7 figures annually. 3 people had already been rotated off it for not being the right fit. I appreciate the opportunity, I said. Derek smiled. That's what I like to hear. Marcus will brief you this afternoon. Don't make me regret this. I stood up. I won't. I left his office and walked straight to the bathroom. Locked myself in a stall. Put my head in my hands. The Morrison account was a poison chalice. Everyone knew it. The client was demanding, the margins were thin, and the previous account managers had all been blamed publicly when things went wrong. Derek was setting me up, not to succeed, to fail. And when I did, he'd have his justification for whatever came next, demotion, termination, or just keeping me in a position where I'd never challenge him again. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, started drafting. That evening, I met my old college roommate Trevor at a bar downtown. He worked in tech, always had, and had been trying to recruit me to his startup for years. You look like hell, he said when I sat down. Thanks. I mean it. What's going on? I told him about Derek, the humiliation, the Morrison account, all of it. Trevor listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. When I finished, he took a long drink. So quit, he said. I can't. Why not? Because I moved here for this job. Because I told everyone this was my big break. Because if I quit after 8 months, I look like a failure. You look like a failure now, man. At least to yourself. That hit harder than I expected. I've got a proposition, Trevor said. Come work with me. Contract basis, initially. Build our sales infrastructure from the ground up. Equity options after 6 months if it works out. Trevor, I'm serious. We just closed our Series A. We need someone who understands enterprise sales. You'd have complete autonomy. Build your own team eventually. I don't know anything about tech sales. You know how to close deals. That's what matters. The tech part you can learn. I swirled the ice in my glass. Think about it, Trevor said. But don't think too long. We're hiring this quarter. I need this job on my resume to mean something, I said. If I leave now, it just looks like I couldn't hack it. Or it looks like you knew when to walk away from a bad situation. We moved on to other topics after that. But his words stayed with me. On the subway home, I opened my laptop, looked at the folder I'd created, exit strategy. Inside were 3 documents I'd started. A resume draft, a list of contacts from my previous job, and a detailed breakdown of every project I'd completed at Derek's company, complete with metrics, outcomes, and client testimonials I'd been collecting. I'd been preparing to leave since yesterday. I just hadn't admitted it to myself yet. The Morrison account consumed the next 3 months. The client, a manufacturing conglomerate, wanted a complete overhaul of their procurement software with custom integrations they hadn't fully mapped out yet. Every meeting surfaced new requirements. Every requirement came with an implied threat that they'd walk if we couldn't deliver. Derek checked in daily. How's Morrison? He'd ask, always in front of other people. Progressing, I'd say. Progressing isn't closing. He'd laugh. Nobody else would. I worked weekends. Missed my brother's birthday. Skipped Thanksgiving entirely. My mom called twice a day until I finally picked up and lied about how great everything was going. But something else was happening too. I was learning, not just about the Morrison account, but about how Derek operated. He had patterns. When he wanted to undermine someone, he'd praise them in private and critique them in public. When he wanted to take credit, he'd insert himself into email chains at the last minute with suggestions, that were just reworded versions of what you'd already proposed. When he wanted to create urgency, he'd manufacture crises that didn't exist, then heroically solve them. I started documenting everything. Emails got saved to a personal folder. Meeting notes got backed up to my personal cloud. Every interaction with Derek, no matter how minor, got logged with dates and times. I didn't know what I was building yet, but I knew it mattered. In January, Marcus pulled me aside. "You need to be careful," he said. "With what?" "Derek's been telling people you're not responsive enough. That Morrison's stalling because you're not pushing hard enough." "That's not true." "I know, but he's creating a narrative. Just watch yourself." I thanked him. That night, I called Trevor. "Your offer still open?" "Always. I need 2 months. Maybe 3. To finish what I started here." "You're actually going to close Morrison?" "I'm going to try. And then I'm done." Trevor was quiet for a moment. "Okay, but I'm holding a spot for you. Don't make me wait too long." I closed Morrison in March. It took a final marathon negotiation session that lasted 9 hours and involved me flying to their headquarters in Ohio. But I got the signatures. 7-year contract. $1.2 million annually. The biggest deal in company history. I forwarded the signed documents to Derek at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. He responded at 6 a.m. "See me first thing." I walked into his office at 8:30. He was on the phone, gestured for me to sit. I waited. He finished his call, hung up, and turned to me. "Morrison's done?" "Morrison's done." He nodded slowly. "Good work. Really. Thank you. I'm assigning you to help Rachel with the Schneider renewal. Should be straightforward. Consider it a break after Morrison." I stared at him. The Schneider renewal is a 2-week administrative task. It's important work. I just closed the biggest deal this company's ever seen. And I'm grateful. But we need team players, not rock stars. Rachel needs support. You're supporting her. There it was. The pattern completing itself. I'd succeeded, so now I needed to be diminished. "I'll think about it," I said. Derek's expression hardened. "You'll think about it?" "I'll think about it." I stood up. "Sit down. We're not finished." "I am." I walked out. Behind me, I heard him say something sharp, but I didn't stop. I went back to my desk, opened my laptop, sent 3 emails. The first to Trevor. "I'm ready. When can we talk details?" The second to my personal account, a zip file containing every document I collected over the past 4 months. The third to Derek. "I resign effective immediately. Exit interview not necessary." Then I hit send and logged out. Stood up, started packing my desk. Around me, people were starting to notice. Rachel appeared at my elbow. "What are you doing?" "Leaving. Right now." "Right now? Because of Schneider?" "Because of everything." Derek's office door slammed open. He crossed the floor in about 6 strides. "You can't resign effective immediately. There's a 2-week notice period in your contract." "Sue me," I said, putting my coffee mug in my box. "You're making a massive mistake." "I'm correcting one." People were gathering now. The same people who'd watched him humiliate me 6 months ago. Derek lowered his voice. "Let's talk about this privately." "No. You're emotional. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking clearly for the first time since I took this job." I picked up my box. Morrison was my work. The contract, the negotiation, everything. I did that. Not you. Not this company. Me. And you tried to bury me with Schneider because you can't stand that someone here might actually be good at something you're not. Derek's face went red. "You're burned out. You're not seeing this objectively." "I see it perfectly." I walked toward the elevator. He followed. "You'll never work in this industry again. I'll make sure of that." I pressed the button. "Tell people whatever you want. I've got emails. I've got documents. I've got a record of every conversation, every project, every deal I closed here. And I've got a contract starting Monday that pays more than you're making." The elevator dinged. I stepped inside. Derek stood in the doorway, blocking it from closing. "Where are you going?" "That's not your business anymore." "Who's hiring you?" I smiled. "Someone who doesn't throw contracts in trash bins." I pushed the close button. He stepped back. The door slid shut. I watched his face disappear. And then I was alone in the elevator, box in my arms, heart hammering. The descent felt like it took forever. When the doors opened to the lobby, I walked out into cold March air. Pulled out my phone. Called Trevor. "I'm available Monday," I said when he picked up. "What happened?" "I'll tell you over lunch. Your treat." He laughed. "Done. Welcome aboard." I hung up. Stood there on the sidewalk for a moment. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Everyone's talking about what you said." Derek locked himself in his office. "I think you broke him." Then another. "Also, we're all jealous." "Drinks this weekend." I smiled. Texted back, absolutely. Then I started walking. I didn't know exactly what came next. But for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I could breathe. The Morrison deal would be announced company-wide next week. My name would be on it. Derek couldn't erase that. And whatever story he tried to spin about my departure, the people who mattered knew the truth. I delivered. He diminished. And I'd walked away with my dignity intact. Trevor's startup was everything Derek's company wasn't. 15 people in a converted warehouse. No cubicles. No corporate hierarchy built on intimidation. Just smart people solving problems together. My first week, Trevor introduced me to the CEO. "This is the guy I've been telling you about," he said. The CEO shook my hand. "Trevor says you closed a 7-figure deal right before you quit your last job." "I did. And that your boss tried to assign you to administrative work afterward." "He did." The CEO laughed. "His loss. Welcome to the team. I built their sales infrastructure from scratch. By month 3, we'd closed our first major client. By month 6, I had equity and a team of 4 people reporting to me. By month 10, we tripled revenue. I worked hard, but it felt different. Nobody was trying to undermine me. Nobody was manufacturing crises to create drama. When I succeeded, people celebrated. When I struggled, people helped. It sounds simple, but after Derek, it felt revolutionary. One afternoon in October, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello. Is this?" The voice paused. "You used to work with Derek Stratton, right?" "Who is this?" "My name's Amanda. I'm an attorney. I represent 3 former employees of Stratton's company who are filing suit for workplace harassment and wrongful termination. Your name came up in discovery. Would you be willing to talk?" I sat down. "What kind of suit?" "Hostile work environment. Systematic intimidation. Retaliation against employees who filed HR complaints. We're building a pattern of behavior going back 5 years." I thought about the folder on my laptop. All those documents. All those emails. "Yes," I said. "I'll talk." We spoke for 2 hours. I sent her everything I had. She called back 3 days later. "Your documentation is incredibly thorough. Would you be willing to give a deposition?" "Absolutely. There might be retaliation. Stratton's attorneys might try to discredit you publicly. Let them try." The deposition happened in November. For hours of questions about Derek's behavior, management style, and specific incidents I'd witnessed or experienced. I answered everything honestly. Showed them the trash bin incident. Showed them the Morrison assignment. Showed them the pattern. When it was over, Amanda thanked me. "This helps," she said. "A lot." "What happens now?" "Now we wait. These things take time. But you should know. 2 more people have come forward since we started talking to you. Your willingness to speak up gave them courage." I didn't know what to say to that. A week later, I got a LinkedIn message. From Marcus. "Derek's on administrative leave. The company's doing an internal investigation. Everyone here knows you're part of why that's happening. Thank you." I messaged back. "How's Rachel?" "She's good. Running the Morrison account now. Says to tell you hi." "Tell her hi back." I closed LinkedIn. Looked around Trevor's office. My office now, technically, since I'd been promoted to VP of sales the previous month. My team was in a meeting in the conference room. Through the glass, I could see them laughing about something. My phone buzzed. My mom. "Your brother says you're coming home for Thanksgiving this year?" "I am," I typed back. "And bringing someone." I looked at my calendar. There was a note there I'd added 2 days ago. "Ask Rachel about Thanksgiving." We'd gotten drinks 4 times since I left. The last time, we'd talked until the bar closed. "Maybe," I typed. "I'll let you know. I'm just happy you're happy, honey." I smiled. "I am," I wrote. And I meant it. The lawsuit settled in February. 7 plaintiffs eventually. I never learned the terms. But Amanda called to tell me Derek was no longer with the company. He's gone. As of yesterday. Part of the settlement includes him not working in a management capacity for 2 years. That's specific. It's what everyone wanted. To make sure he couldn't do this to someone else immediately. Good. You should be proud. Your documentation made the difference. After we hung up, I sat with that for a while. I hadn't set out to destroy Derek. I just wanted to protect myself. But sometimes protecting yourself means making sure the person who hurt you can't hurt others. That evening, I took Rachel to dinner. Told her about the settlement. "That's huge," she said. "It feels strange. Like it's over, but also like it was never really about me specifically. It was about all of us. You just had the courage to do something about it." I mostly just got angry and documented everything. Sometimes that's what courage looks like. We talked about other things after that. Her promotion. My team. The fact that my startup was in acquisition talks with a larger firm. Around dessert, she asked, "What would you have done differently if you could go back?" I thought about it. "I would have left sooner," I said. "I would have trusted my gut that first day when he threw my contract in the trash. Would have saved myself a lot of pain. But then you wouldn't have closed Morrison." True. And you wouldn't have built the documentation that helped everyone else. Also true. So maybe it happened exactly how it needed to. Maybe. She reached across the table, took my hand. "I'm glad you stayed as long as you did, even if it was hard, because that's how we met." I squeezed her hand. "Yeah," I said. "Me too." We left the restaurant and walked through the city. It was cold. Almost March again. 1 year since I'd walked out of Derek's office with a cardboard box and no idea what came next. "You ever think about him?" Rachel asked. "Derek?" "Yeah. Sometimes. Mostly I think about how much energy I wasted being angry. How much space he took up in my head. And now he doesn't take up any space at all." We walked in silence for a block. "That's growth," she said finally. "That's relief." My phone buzzed. "Trevor, acquisition fell through. But we got another offer. Better terms. Call me tomorrow." I put my phone away. "Good news?" Rachel asked. "Complicated news. But probably good. Tell me about it later?" "Yeah." We reached her apartment. She kissed me on the steps. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For being someone who does the right thing even when it's hard." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just kissed her back. And then I walked home through the cold March night, hands in my pockets, thinking about everything that had changed in 1 year. Derek had promised me growth, and in a way, he'd delivered, just not the way he'd intended. I'd grown by learning exactly what I wouldn't tolerate, by documenting my worth when someone tried to erase it, by walking away when staying would have broken something essential. Derek didn't control my career anymore. He never really had. I did. And that was the freedom he couldn't touch. 10 months after that trash bin moment, I'd built something he couldn't take from me. Not reputation, not a job title, but the knowledge that I could survive his worst and come out stronger. I could walk away from toxicity and walk towards something better. I could stand up in front of witnesses and tell the truth. That was the career freedom that mattered. Not a position, not a paycheck. The certainty that I'd never let someone like Derek make me feel small again. When I got home, I opened my laptop, looked at that old folder, exit strategy. I almost deleted it. Then I didn't. Instead, I renamed it, Evidence of Growth. And I closed the laptop. Tomorrow there'd be calls about acquisitions, decisions about the team, conversations about next steps. But tonight, I was just going to sleep. Soundly. For the first time in over a year. Because the person who'd promised me growth and then humiliated me on the office floor no longer had any power over my peace. And that was the only victory I'd ever really needed.